You are listening to These Are The Films, episode 5. And this time we're going to be talking about Raising Arizona. Hi everyone, welcome to These Are The Films. It's a fortnightly podcast where we pick a film and we have a little natter about it. My name's Jim and I'm here with my pal Crispin.
Hello. Yes, these are the films. It works a bit like a book club. At the end of this episode, where we're talking about Raising Arizona, we will tell you what film we're going to watch and then talk about next time. So we invite you to watch that film in the 2 weeks in between the two podcasts and tell us what you think about the film, about our choice. And you can do that on social media, on Twitter at TATF Podcast, or Facebook, search for These Are The Films, or at our website, thesearethefilms.com.
Lovely. A brief word of warning before we get started. Just like every week, we will be spoiling the hell out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, press pause, go and watch it, come back. And you'll thank us for it. Not that this movie has got too much of a spoiler. It's not like we're doing a Sixth Sense or anything. We're doing Raising Arizona, Coen Brothers' 1987 comedy. Coen Brothers, some of the greatest filmmakers of our time, I would say.
Super fan, aren't you, Jim? Super fan.
I like them. I think they're pretty good. Are you a big fan?
Yeah, I haven't seen. You've got them all. You've got them all ticked off, haven't you?
Well, yeah. Apart from Crime Wave.
What's Crime Wave?
Crime Wave is the one that they co-wrote with Sam Raimi, but was actually directed by Sam Raimi, so it's not actually a proper Coen Brothers movie in that respect. But, you know, he co-wrote it with Sam Raimi, and it's in between Blood Simple, which is their first film, and Raising Arizona, which is the second Coen Brothers film, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I haven't seen that one. I think Steve Buscemi's in it.
Do you know they used to... Sam Raimi and Holly Hunter and Frances mega actor, what's her name?
McDormand.
Right, yeah, they all used to share a flat in Brooklyn.
Before
they was famous.
Yeah,
they're a secret pact.
They're a cool gang, aren't they?
Famous.
Yeah. Let's just all us really talented filmmakers get really famous by making really good movies. So yeah, I mean, I think they're the guys really for our time. I absolutely adore their movies. So, and this was really, I think, my first... Yeah, well, I mean, it was my... You know, when I first watched it, I don't really have any concept of what a Coen Brothers movie was. I just saw this daft movie and watched it because, I mean, it can't have been that long after it came out. So, you know, I was still a kid when I watched it. And I just thought...
But you'd have noticed that you were watching a different sort of film to normal, right?
Yeah, but I think it was early in the sort of development of my understanding of what films were what. I do remember there being a sort of time where this and Hudson Hawk were my favourite movies, and I didn't know enough about movies to realise what totally weird movies they were, but I think that's kind of, it very much seeded something in terms of my taste in movies, which is, let's not get too excited. It's not.
Hang on, let me just stop you there. Just to make sure that I've got this right. Hudson Hawk is a film where Bruce Willis does he not build like Leonardo da Vinci's helicopter and escape on it or something?
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. I loved that movie. I thought that movie was brilliant, and it gets panned. People absolutely hate it, but I don't know. I just thought it was. I loved the nonsense of it. I thought it was great. So yeah, and the same with this. So yeah, and then you find out what the Coen Brothers are, you know, Fargo, watch that, brilliant. Big Lebowski, watch that, brilliant. Oh yeah, they've got those guys who did those films. They've got this other film, Raising Arizona. Oh yeah, I remember that film. It was great, you know. So yeah, what about you?
For me, I think similar because I remember I do remember Fargo coming out and watching that and just thinking this is brilliant. This is how films. This is when someone has actually sat down and discussed and thought about how to make a really good film.
Yeah.
Instead of now, let's do this, test it, and see if it's going to make money. It's more about there's a proper there's an art to it, isn't there? There's passion there. You can see it. It's like we're going to make this really, really good.
Yeah, and I think that it's so accessible as well. And I don't know, I'm not. It's not that accessible. My mum doesn't like Coen Brothers movies, but at least she's kind of culturally aware enough to know that that's a type of movie that she doesn't like. I think she just finds the dialogue a bit annoying. There's some people like realism, don't they? And she just.
I mean, that's an interesting thing because I do think that part of the thing that makes Coen Brothers films really clever, and part of the thing that's really amazing about this film is that the dialogue is so weird and so overly descriptive and articulate.
But we're straight into that, aren't we? We're straight into that. I haven't even talked about the budget or anything yet. And we're already. I mean, but I think it's an overarching trope of certainly their comedies. And Fargo does it as well, whether that's one of their comedies or their dramas, it's a bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah.
But verbose, and you hear their, even in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, they kind of reference it almost when John Goodman as the Cyclops is talking to Ulysses Everett McGill and says, I see, like me, you are blessed with the gift of gab. And because everyone's just... And people seem to... What I love about the dialogue thing about it is the way that they mix in dialect with, like, a weird, greater knowledge of a subject that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Yeah. Like the brothers in this film, what's his? Is it Evil, the younger brother? He seems to know quite a lot about raising babies, which he kind of shouldn't know. It's just you wouldn't expect people to know things that they know.
Yeah, it's kind of like. Do you remember in EastEnders? Donkeys years ago, they had a guy who was. He was on the dole. He was like the head of a family or something, and he was dead clever. Just knew everything, but just never did any work. He was totally lazy. But he was really articulate, understood everything. Would tell would reel off literary references and stuff. And then it turned out that he couldn't read, and that was like a big reveal moment in EastEnders. You don't remember that?
No.
Lost on you.
Yeah. But I'm sure our listeners were delighted with the reference.
Well,
so.
If I'd have remembered his name, maybe, or the year, sort of time span that it was, could have done a lot more if I'd have prepared.
Yeah, I mean, EastEnders, it's only had a short run and it's only had a couple of characters, so it's going to be fairly easy for them to nail it down, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. I mean... So many lines and just off the cuff things really sort of spring to mind as being brilliant. I mean, what are some of your favourites that are kind of display what you're talking about in terms of people being verbose and?
I tell you, the key line for this for me is when the brothers are robbing the hayseed bank. And they're about to leave, and then Gail is John Goodman's character called Gail. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. So and then they've been talking about everyone has to stay on the floor, and they're going to, and they have to wait for 10 minutes, and they're coming back in 5 to check. And then just as they're going out the door, John Goodman says, "Anyone caught bipedal in 5 gets to wear his ass for a hat."
They're very good.
Do you know that the thing is just, that's amazing because it's so absurd,
Yeah.
but but I think because everyone does their accent so well. Well,
Yes.
as far as I'm aware, you know, I think like with it not being, you know, with us not hearing that sort of dialect, that sort of accent a lot, it's very easy for it to be perfect. But I imagine that it's, you know, that they all just worked really hard to nail that, because I think that's how it works so hard. There's no flaw to it. Everything is very, very fluid, and because everybody's doing it,
Yeah.
you're creating a reality that is just fine, and the you know, the what do you call it, the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. You know, you were talking about auteurs and how much people get to improvise and not improvise in their films, and how controlling an environment it can be depending on your director. And Nicolas Cage kind of complained about. I don't suppose complained about Coen Brothers, but when he was talking about how it worked for the Coen Brothers. He said that he wasn't allowed to bring anything to the character at all, and I think that's, you know, so you can't improvise in a Coen Brothers movie, and I think that's absolutely spot on. You know, how could you? Because if you started making the dialogue be at all realistic, it would pop out of the film, because there is no realistic dialogue in the entire movie. You know, it's Coen Brothers world dialogue. It's not like, so if you started improvising, you would have to be very, very good at being, you know, I would imagine you'd probably let Frances McDormand, who's been in like every single one of their movies, and John Goodman and maybe Steve Buscemi might be able to give it a shot, but it's all about the writing, and it's not meant to be real. It's meant to be the crazy weird mixture of dialect and verbosity.
Yeah, and that's it. That's really, really interesting, isn't it? Because that's it. You're painting a picture for me now. Like that is exactly how the films all work out, isn't it? That they've written something down that now has to, you know, this script is going to be displayed on the screen, and this is exactly how it's got to be. Yeah. Otherwise,
it's not going to work.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work. And I think that I don't think it's so much in the Coen Brothers. The dude does it a lot in the Coen Brothers. The Big Lebowski, the dude does it a lot. But in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, it's absolute nonsense. You know, the conversations are so weird and all over the place. And George Clooney's so good in that. He's so funny as Ulysses Everett McGill. There's so many things that these films have got in common. You know, this film to me is very much a prototype for the Hudsucker Proxy, the Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Hang on, what's Hudsucker Proxy? What's that one about?
Oh man, the Hudsucker Proxy. Have you not seen the Hudsucker Proxy?
Yeah, probably. What happens in it? Who's in it?
Tim Robbins, who's brilliant. I love Tim Robbins. He so he's like working in the mail room of Hudsucker Industries, and the
only gets mega promoted.
Yeah, Mr. Hudsucker, okay. and there's the it's the same story as? It's the same story as Mr. Deeds, starring what's his name from Happy Gilmore?
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, it's the same story.
Is that? But...
Yeah, there's the journalist who pretends to be like a small town. Oh, right. She's from Muncie. I'm a Muncie gal. She's brilliant because she's always, hey boys, I'll bet my Pulitzer Prize on it and stuff. I think, and her dialogue is so completely off the wall because it's that sort of the Pulp Fiction stuff, you know, just. Yeah, but that's just another example of it. And since we're on the subject of Hudsucker Industries, H.I. in this, when he gets the job, like working at this sheet metal place, that's Hudsucker Industries.
No way.
Yeah, because Hudsucker Industries, although filmed after this, was written before it. And the way you can tell that it's Hudsucker Industries is Emmett Walsh's character, who is in the credits as Machine Shop Earbender.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who leans on it, but the whole time he's working on his drill press, there's a guy just leaning on it saying things like, Bill Roberts? No, not that mother scratcher, Bill Parker, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's wearing his overalls say Hudsucker Industries on them.
Ah, keen eye, Jim.
It's an Easter egg. There's a couple in this. Yeah, it's very good. So, the dialogue. I mean, I think that I kind of want to talk about some of the characters, and I've got some ideas of what some of my favourite lines that each character does. So I think maybe we'll go over each character and get onto some of the dialogue and examples of the dialogue with them. But yeah, I think the dialogue of this film is such a good example of why it's a good movie and why it's a prototype for their other movies and stuff. But I mean, I'll just get some of the things out of the way, like the budget and stuff we usually talk about. So its budget was $6 million, and it grossed in the box office $30 million. So, you know, the guys in the studio must have been thinking, this is great. You know, these guys are a fairly safe pair of hands. They're not spending a lot. They're making a lot more than they're spending. But at that point, I realised, you know, we talk about budget every week, and I don't know what any of it means. You know, if we talk about a modern film, I kind of get that, you know, when we talked about how much Moon cost, I knew that was cheap because I know how much films cost now. But I say it cost $6 million to make this movie in 1987. I don't know. So I looked up some films and saw how much they cost that were made in 1987.
Oh yeah, good call.
Which was an astonishingly good year for films. If you look at what films came out in 1987,
ooh, what else came out?
Spoil. Well, Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Right.
I know. It happened to be one that I picked up because it grossed a lot, and it cost $20 million to make. So it cost more than 3 times as much to make Beverly Hills Cop 2 as it did to make Raising Arizona. But that grossed $160 million, so it made a lot. But RoboCop only cost $13 million. So
$13 million.
Yeah. So that's loads cheaper than Beverly Hills Cop 2. And then Full Metal Jacket cost $30 million.
30.
Yeah, 30. And then Wall Street cost 15, and that's shot in 2 rooms. It's like down one street. It's even got the name of the street in it. So what I've come away from is that I still don't know anything about what budgets mean. I still don't know what's an expensive movie and what's not an expensive movie. So
no, and you can't look at something and say, "Oh, look, I see where they spent the money there." Well, I suppose you can do if they got like super special effects or something.
Yeah.
Then you can see it. But
well, yeah, sort of. But Beverly Hills Cop 2 cost $20 million, and RoboCop cost 13. So I guess Eddie Murphy had what, like 12 million of that. You know, I don't know. It must have just cost $12 million to have Eddie Murphy in a movie, and then $8 million to make the film.
Yeah, they don't even really smash anything up in that film, do they?
I can't remember. All I remember about it is the scene with
shop.
Yeah, because we talked about it like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, so let's talk about the characters, because you know, we were talking about Eddie Murphy. It cost a lot of money to have him in, a sequel movie, but loads of first timers for this film. So I think that's Coen Brothers are quite good at introducing people, and they're also good at getting megastars and making them work in their films as well. But any particular characters or performances that caught your eye that really stood out for you?
Well, I think everything was chosen really well. I thought, a big thing actually, thinking about it, is Holly Hunter and Nick Cage's voices together just work really well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They got really, really similar, but also really, really different. And
Yeah.
and even though they change dramatically out throughout the film, their voices don't.
No. And what I think is quite odd as well, you were talking about accents earlier, is that I kind of think that everyone's been given a southern accent, and there were people in Tempe. I used to live in Tempe, Arizona, where this film is set, and yeah, they don't talk like that in Tempe, Arizona.
Do they not?
No, not at all. They talk like Californians. It's the West, you know. But
Why
I
has
mean,
everyone got that accent?
because it's funny,
Right.
I guess. You know, because they're saying, you know, when they go and hold up that hayseed ranch, he's the guy who's like, if it had dropped, then I won't have frozen or something like that. And he's saying the word if'n. I mean, that's pure Alabama. That's not Arizona.
I don't know. I've got no idea, mate.
No,
My
well,
geography's completely shot.
I wouldn't know about
So
it. I mean,
when you went to live in Arizona, is this what you were expecting people to talk like?
Yeah, I guess. I had absolutely no idea what I was coming up against.
Excuse me,
I mean,
sir. Where are the Hicks?
Oh, I tell you what, I knew where the Hicks were. Definitely.
Where were they?
Where were they?
In your back garden.
Everywhere, pretty much. Everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. Rednecks more than anything. Yeah. Funny lot. Yeah, but it's weird watching this movie back now, because obviously I'd watched it before I lived there, and then I didn't see it for a bit, and then I put it in, and he said, I'm in Tempe, Arizona, and I was like, oh, he's still in Tempe, Arizona. That's really funny. And yeah, where they we used to hang out where they you know where the caravan is.
Yeah.
Superstition Mountain on the Apache Trail. We used to go and hang out there at weekends. Yeah, it was amazing, you know. Go seeing the sunset over the mountains in the desert. Oh God, it was just what a place to live. And they used to have, there was like this ghost town right by there, you know, pretty much on the site where they filmed that.
Yeah.
You know, they
A real one.
yeah, they rebuilt like an old.
Oh,
So it like a tattered, fallen down old cowboy town when the copper ran out or whatever it was. Everyone moved out, and they've rebuilt it, and they have like gunfight shows, and you know it's a tourist attraction. It's wicked. That's so good. You get in the mine shaft thing and all that, and all the walls go up so that it's like you're going downstairs, down into the mine, although you're not actually going anywhere. It's very good. Loved it. Yeah, it was really good fun. But yeah, they didn't talk like that there. They really didn't.
so where is that accent from? That's from Alabama.
Well, I mean, that's just this. It's almost like a. It's not even a real accent as much as it is a sort of pastiche of.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Country. Yeah, it's not like it's more of a sort of a film's idea. You know, just like I was about to say, just like the journalist in the Hudsucker Proxy. If you, hey, I'll bet my Pulitzer Prize. You know, women in New York in the 30s didn't actually talk like that, but it's a funny thing in films, and I think that's kind of what they've gone for with the accent. With this is more of a, this is how Hicks in films.
This is how everyone in this
talk,
film is
rather
going to
than-
talk.
Yeah.
Because it's funny.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you're saying about first timers. Who's the first timer then in this?
Well, I mean, it's not Nicolas Cage's first time, but it's his like first leading role. And you know, because he'd been in stuff when he was a kid. You know, what with him not really being called Nicolas Cage and him really being called Nicholas Coppola, as in Francis Ford. So, but he didn't want anyone to think that he was getting nepotism. He just happened to be in loads of movies from when he was a child. You know, I wouldn't like to think that him and Sofia Coppola, also having very successful movie careers, could have anything at all to do with Francis Ford. I wouldn't suggest.
I'm impressed at your lack of cynicism, Jim, but I completely agree. There's absolutely no, there's no obvious nepotism there at all.
Well, I mean, particularly when you look at Sofia Coppola, because you know her performance in Godfather 3 was Oscar worthy. I mean, how could he have not cast her? She's wonderful.
I think I've just banished Godfather 3 from my head.
It's a terrible movie, and her performance in it is the worst thing about the movie, and that is astonishing given how bad a movie it is. Oh, it's such a bad movie, and I know that that's partly to do with the fact that it's compared to two of the greatest movies ever made, blah blah blah. But it's woeful film. Very disappointing. However, she is a fantastic director.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like her films. So there's that.
Yeah,
as long as she's behind the camera.
I've made you meander. You were saying characters.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage. You said who's the first timer. That was pretty much his first time, first leading role. Nicolas Cage. He's he divides opinion. What are your thoughts on Nicolas Cage?
Oh, I don't know. It's
All right, what's your favourite Nicolas Cage film? Put you on the spot. There you go.
Ooh.
Apart from this film, because it's obviously this film.
The Rock?
Yeah. That is a great movie.
I love The Rock.
I love it. I mean, I'm not oblivious to the fact that it is absolute nonsense. But I could say
total drivel.
Do you know what? I could watch that movie. I could press rewind because obviously I'm watching it on VHS, and I can watch it again.
Time machine.
Yeah. I can watch it again. I love that movie. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, there's they managed to get the dialogue is ridiculous, and there's so many holes in the plot. I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. Things like
maybe that's kind of the like you were saying that this is the Raising Arizona is this prototype for Coen Brothers movies. The Rock is kind of prototype for what happened in Nick Cage's career following The Rock is that it's just him running about, like chasing a story that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, like Con Air. Con Air. I mean, it's just...
I love Con Air as well.
I know, I do too. I know. I mean, but it is... I mean, really, it's awful.
Yeah. I tweeted The Rock once when I watched it.
Oh, brilliant.
So
good.
I will be sure. I'm going to dig it out. I think I've got it on Storyfy or something. I'll dig it out and I'll add it to the post on the website.
He breaks into Alcatraz by knowing the way the fire and the wheels and the cogs and stuff in that little hole, and he can remember the order of it, so he's able to break in. He broke out, not in. So it's wrong. The fundamental thing about it, it's wrong. He broke out of Alcatraz, not into Alcatraz. He doesn't know how to break into Alcatraz. When he was coming out, given that you can open that door from the inside, so he broke in through the fire tunnel to open the door to get out. When he was getting out, when he was escaping,
come back to us, Jim, come back to us. Raising Arizona.
Sorry. I tell you what, we haven't got very far through this film, have we? I like Wild at Heart. If I'm actually being serious about Nicolas Cage movies, I thought that was a brilliant movie. And again, just for the absolute nonsense of it. And
that's it. With him, he'll do it. He's a jobbing actor, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's his job.
Yeah.
So,
be mental.
I remember Michael Caine getting grilled for. I think he was getting stick for some film or other that he did. Maybe it was The Swarm, but but he was getting grief for it in an interview. They said, "Why did you even do that film?" He said, my wife wanted a new conservatory and an extension out the back, so it's my job. I'm an actor. People say, "Do you want to do this film?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I make guitars for a living, but the other day someone said to me, "Oh, you know how to solder, don't you?" Yeah, I need to do some of these train parts soldered up. Yeah, all right. I'll do that. What are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, admittedly, it hasn't got the same cachet as me rustling up a guitar,
Yeah.
but, at the end of the day, I got some mouths to feed. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and also, what's Nicolas Cage going to say? I mean, well, I wouldn't like to spoil my body of work by doing. I mean, once you've done Face Off, you can't really be doing these bad movies. Yeah, nonsense. Just let them do some films, Yeah. And it was Holly Hunter's first film. And she went on to be a very good and very successful.
What did she get an Oscar for? Did she get it for the piano?
Yeah, I think so. I should have done my research.
All I can remember about the piano.
But yeah, brilliant.
Harvey Keitel creeping around under the piano and putting his finger on a hole in her stocking. And then getting his John Thomas out later.
Yeah. Yeah, you do see his lad, don't you?
Yeah.
That's reminded me of that scene in Father Ted. Oh, it's like your man. Oh, I can't remember it. But you know what?
Yeah, that's like your Michaels. No. Michaels is far rounder at the end.
Yeah, she's really good. I can't remember what the piano's like. I watched it. I thought the soundtrack was good. Michael Nyman.
But that's it. The piano. Let's not talk about the piano. Raising Arizona. Sorry. Yeah, come back to life. Yeah.
Who else is good? Go on. Who do you think was good?
The second brother. What's his name? I can't.
Is it Evil?
Yeah, but his actor name.
I didn't write it down. I didn't think it was great.
Oh, do you know?
I didn't think it was bad.
Oh.
I didn't. I just it fitted. It was fine.
Yeah, fit in. But I think that's a really important thing in a film that's why they have Oscars for supporting actors.
Yeah,
because not to do all the big lines and not to to hold the story together is a really, really important role, and I think he does that very, very well. He feeds. He feeds loads of lines to John Goodman to deliver really well.
Yeah.
And he's just,
he's a great foil for John Goodman's character, isn't he? Yeah, and John Goodman's character, I think, has got its flaws. Like the shouting.
Yeah. But I forgive him the shouting just because when he puts the chicken on his head. Mm-hmm. That's just brilliant.
My mum couldn't forgive the shouting. I think after the second bout of shouting, because the reason why I keep talking about my mum is because when I watched it for the purposes of this podcast of making the notes, my mum was up, and so she sat down and watched it too, even though she's on record as not liking the Coen Brothers. And John Goodman's second bout of shouting, she just said, I'm not listening to John Goodman shouting anymore. I'm going to bed. I think that was funny in the 80s.
Yeah.
In my head, that happens all the time in, I don't know, Look Who's Talking Now or something. Everyone going, ah,
yeah,
ah, and then looking at each other and going, ah. And I think, people in the 80s were idiots and they thought that was funny, but it's not. So... And that's the only thing that dates this movie. Because if you watch this movie without knowing it was made in 1987, when would you think it was made?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's dated.
Because they kind of all the costumes and stuff are sort of out of time, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no real clear indication of. This is the time that it is. I mean, maybe their clothes when they dress up to meet his boss and his wife, when they're trying to posh it up, then those clothes are pretty 80s. But also, they're exactly the sort of clothes that you would expect. That would just have fitted in with the rest of what everyone's wearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially with the costumes and the general look of the film, I think that this film is so influential that you can't tell what era it is because so many films now are being made that look like this film.
Interesting. Yeah. I totally buy that. Yeah.
Because when the boys were coming out of the brothers are coming out of the ground. And obviously we've got scenes of birthing and all of that. That's what it's supposed to be. Karen said to me, "Oh, what do you think of that scene?" I said, "Well, birthing and all that." And she said, Karen's my wife, by the way, for the listeners. And she said, "Well, don't you think it's a nod to Shawshank Redemption?" I said, "They haven't got a time machine, love. This was made like 8 years before Shawshank Redemption." But she didn't know when it was made because it's not obviously a 1987 movie. Because Wes Anderson could have made that movie last year.
Yeah.
It's got that look to it. If you look at the Royal Tenenbaums, everyone's wearing clothes in the 70s, but it's not set in the 70s, and that gives it a timelessness. And I think this film started that, maybe.
Yeah, it could have done. Yeah, it could easily done. I mean, there is there's definitely quite a lot of influence from I guess the early Coen Brothers stuff, like Raising Arizona, onto not just Wes Anderson, also what's Simon Pegg's mate's name? Edgar thing.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright?
Yeah.
Edgar
Wright.
Wright.
I think it is. Yeah. Jared Hess, I think.
Who's Jared Hess?
God, do you know what? For some reason, I nearly said Gentlemen Broncos. Well, if you were going to say, it's just not the film that you say. If someone says Jared Hess, you don't say, "Oh yeah, didn't he do Gentlemen Broncos?" You say, "Oh, didn't he do Napoleon Dynamite?" That film that everyone knows.
Oh right, okay, same guy, right?
Yeah, and Nacho Libre.
Mm-hmm.
I love that film. I love that film. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of stops it looking dated, and to me, the only thing that's dated in it is the Goodman screaming thing. I just thought it was just irritating. So, other than that, love the film. I thought Nathan...
I think to hang on the screaming thing for a bit, it is kind of... I think that kind of leads us quite well into another properly visual aspect of the whole film, is that it's very comic, and like it's framed like comics are framed, and the colours and the saturation of everything is very, very, the contrast is high. It's kind of basic. It looks like a comic. It looks a lot more like a comic than all of the comic films that we're drowning under at the moment, which tend not to look like comics at all. And I think that it's important for me. What do you think? Do you think it's a big deal?
Yeah. I think it looks great. I think it's a fantastic looking film. Yeah. The other performance I really liked was Nathan Arizona. I thought he was really good. Trey Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I still call I call my son's pajamas jammies. Because of it. Yeah. And I also I bought my son a bicycle helmet because it had loads of little aliens and stuff on it, so that when people could say, "Oh, I like your bicycle helmet," I could say, "Yeah, I really like it too. It's got Yodas and stuff on it," and which is obviously referencing a line. Obviously, Nathan Arizona uses profanity, which I've cleaned up for the purposes of this family podcast. But yeah, and so I love quoting this film. I think there are so many brilliant bits in it. It's so funny.
It's nice to drop quotes in real life, isn't it? And then you have to look around to see if anyone went,
"Oh, this is it." Your references are off the chain. We said it last time. That's what it's all about. It's just testing people to see if they get the references. No one ever gets a Raising Arizona reference.
Oh,
it's too obscure. You can throw a Big Lebowski reference about left, right, and centre, but I don't know. It's difficult to get a response on a Raising Arizona reference. People don't get it. I thought to me the most interesting character, those Leonard Smalls.
Yeah. Because he ties a lot of stuff together, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He basically not just the the two disparate entities of the story being like the Arizona family and the McDonough family, but also kind of real life and what goes on in High's head, because he's a dream character first off, isn't he?
Well, that's where you get that weird magical realism thing. Because what is he? Is he real, even?
Mm.
And then he's got the same tattoo as H.I.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Exactly that.
So he's in H.I.'s dreams and he's a real person. So now we're blurring. And he's got H.I.'s tattoo. So what is he? What do you think he is?
Well, I don't. To be honest, I don't think that's. I don't think it's a question to be answered. I think that he's for the intents of the film, he's a real character, but he also very deliberately and obviously carries the part of the story of High's retribution, I guess.
Yes.
His change from, okay, I'm going to stop being a robber. But he hasn't stopped being a robber at all.
No.
Not until the point where he kills a man, and now he's stopped being a robber. And now he's turned to decency.
Yeah, absolutely, and and that really boils down to. I'm glad we've kind of actually got onto the point of retribution, because we're going to be wrapping this up in about 10 minutes. I feel like we're still on the intro. Yeah. God, there's so much in this madcap comedy. There's so much in it that we've barely scratched the surface, and we've nearly done our podcast. But yeah, if you get all the way, I'm just scrolling through my notes on each act. In Act 3 is the one, because it's all about redemption.
Mm.
And he thinks he's trying to get redemption from him being a petty thief and all that sort of thing. And yeah, like you say, it's not until he actually kills Smalls that he actually achieves that redemption. And that's why I think Leonard Smalls is such an interesting character, because he's kind of not a real character, and I think you were absolutely right to say that it's not to be answered. You're not supposed to know what Leonard Smalls is, but you're supposed to be thinking about what he is, because is he H.I. if H.I. didn't achieve redemption?
Mm.
So I think that's supposed to be one of the things that he's meant to represent. Obviously, he represents hell. One of the interesting things about the character, I think, which is, there's no question about, when you think about it, there's no question about it's definitely on purpose. Do you remember the Book of Mice and Men?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that one of the characters was a big simpleton who kept accidentally killing things?
Yeah.
Yeah, his name was Lenny Small.
Oh.
Yeah, and what does Lenny Small want to do when they get some money together? He wants to run a farm and look after rabbits. But he keeps killing things. Anything soft. He loves things that are soft. Yeah. But then he keeps accidentally killing them because he's a simpleton. He's got absolutely no idea of how to control himself. I think it's very telling that they've got the same name. And when you're first introduced to the character of Leonard Smalls, when he's driving down the road, he throws a hand grenade and a rabbit comes up and sniffs it, and then it explodes and kills the rabbit. So it's definitely him, isn't it? It's definitely a reference to him. So yeah, I tell you what, when I clocked that, I just...
You felt like you'd won, didn't you?
I was walking around like I owned the place, bruv. Walking around like I owned the place. Sticking my thumbs in my braces.
So you're watching this with your mum, and she was still with you at this point. Did you make her high five you?
No, it was... I'd clocked this one before.
Oh, right.
I think there had to have been a shorter period of time between me reading Of Mice and Men and me getting that, because I can't remember what the characters in Of Mice and Men are called now. I only remember him
No.
because
Well, I'll tell you why that is. It's because they make you read it at school, which means that you read it like this. Like you hate it. And you don't want to remember any of it. And everything that you've got to think about it, you begrudge.
No, I loved it. I had to pretend that I hated it so that I looked cool.
Oh, right.
But yeah, no, I ate up. And we did The Grapes of Wrath at school. I sucked that up. But, I mean, I got it because I love a bit of Steinbeck. I'm a big Steinbeck man. I went on a little Steinbeck pilgrimage,
Did you?
I went to Tortilla Flat and Cannery Row and all that. Yeah. I went and did my Steinbeck pilgrimage, dragged my wife along.
Dust Bowl Pilgrim.
Well, no, I mean, not the California bit rather than because loads of stuff. It's all Monterey Bay. So, I mean, we were there anyway, but, it was there. It was interesting. I mean, it's everywhere between Santa Cruz Monterey and Santa Cruz is all Steinbeck stuff. So, and since we happened to be going from Monterey to Santa Cruz, it was, so
you've done it.
Yeah, you might as well go and do it, right? But no, I love a bit of Steinbeck. So
that's the best sort of pilgrimage, isn't it? I was just going there anyway, so
yeah. So might as well have a look. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think religious pilgrimage work out like that as well?
Well, I did I did a bit of that Santiago pilgrimage.
What's that?
The one across northern Spain?
No.
Okay, there's a pilgrimage across northern Spain. I did a bit of it.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah. I know the one you mean, yeah.
Wasn't on purpose, but I did have a rather odd situation where me and our mutual friend Paul had climbed a mountain on our bicycles, and we were absolutely knackered. We were at the highest point in the Basque Country, and I was so knackered I fell asleep in the restaurant that we were eating in mid-meal, and then I was woken up, and suddenly, because we were on this pilgrimage, the entire restaurant had filled up with nuns while I'd been asleep, and then they were all singing that woke me up. So there's all these nuns singing in Spanish in this restaurant. It was like, oh! It was it was a surreal moment. Yeah, and there's other bits where Leonard Smalls is like, so when H.I.'s picking up the nappies off of the ground after he rips off the convenience store, and that's exactly the same as when Leonard Smalls picks the baby up off the centre. And, I love those centre shots where, Coen Brothers aren't interested in the rule of thirds. They want it right in the middle, everything right in the middle. I like it, if everyone else is doing this, we're going to do this. I think it looks really good. So there's that, and then when Leonard Smalls drags H.I. out from under the truck when they're having the fight.
Same as the baby.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, he's such a good character for that. It's so interesting, and it's all about H.I.'s redemption and obviously Ed's redemption as well, because obviously she has a fall from grace as well, doesn't she? So rather than being
and a massive and a very poignant change of heart right at the very middle of the film.
Yeah,
the very, very middle of the film is where H.I. has returned to his grocery store robbing ways.
Yeah,
and she's got moody with it, ditched him, driven away, and then spins around to go pick him up, and that's pretty much right in the middle of the whole film, isn't it? Time wise,
yeah,
and story wise, it's just like you get to this point, and now that I guess is a point of change for Ed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really poignant that she kind of realizes that it's all about the family and stuff, and goes back for him. It's bigger than whether he's robbing convenience stores or not. But yeah, I think. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's some of those. Some of the lines are just fantastic. Yeah, I mean the structure of the film. You're talking about midpoints. The structure of the film is really hard to know where midpoints and end of acts and stuff are.
Yeah.
The Coen Brothers have mixed it up so much in this film.
But weirdly, here's the thing that I noticed was because the start of it, where the setup's amazing. It's just and it goes on for so long, 10 minutes. And when the credits finally came in, I was just like, oh, how long's that been? That's been 10 minutes.
Is that all of Act 1 in the cold open? I love a cold open.
I don't know. See, I struggled with that. Is that the end of Act 1, or is that just
nearly
the establishing shots? Really, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is nearly the whole of Act 1, all in the cold open. We haven't even had the titles yet, and we've nearly had Act 1. You know, they absolutely because I mean, I'm a big James Bond fan, so I've always loved the cold open. The cold open, for listeners who don't know, is where the film just cracks on, and then it gets to a point like in James Bond when you then get the theme tune. You know, the parachute opens, it's got a Union Jack on it, now we've got the theme tune. And this film's got one, and yeah, it's most of the first act. So the inciting incident is stealing the baby, obviously, and you know they've already decided to do that, and then we've got the titles. So yeah, we've nailed the vast majority of the first act before we even get started, and it's bang, 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 bang. This happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. Right, now we're going to steal a baby. Titles, stealing the baby.
And the whole of that first part as well is all from HI's point of view. He's narrating it. It's all, you know, it's not POV from him, but essentially the narrative is exactly POV. It's all stuff that is definitely happening to him. It's about him. It's what he wants, what he's going to do, and his wants change over the time when he wants to, you know, it goes from wanting to get out of prison, wanting to be with Ed, wanting to have a baby, and then getting a baby. It's all what, and then it changes, and then it starts to meander about and take other people's perspectives.
End of the salad days, as he says, and then the first bit that's not from HI's point of view is when the brothers escape from prison.
Yeah,
you know, and that's probably second act 2, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to know. I couldn't work out whether
they just messed it up a bit. I think, you know, and that's on purpose as well. You know, they're too good at it. And I do think it's absolutely deliberate. It's basically so that people can't just talk about it and say, and here's the end of Act 2, because then they can go, wrong.
Yeah.
They've probably got like 3 ends of Act 2, just so whatever conversation they're in with the Hollywood elite stroke hoi polloi, then they say, well, obviously end of Act 2 is here, and they could be in a restaurant and just pop up and go, wrong.
No.
Yeah.
No. And it's good because although it is still kind of based around a 3-act play, they've just blurred it up a bit, and that's good. And then you get, you know, we both waxed lyrical about Dead Man's Shoes, and that is such a strict 3-act play. But it's all blurred, and it's not that one's good and one's not good. You know, I'm not saying, oh, well, this film's excellent because they throw away the 3-act model. It's a load of nonsense. You know, you can't say that 3-act plays and 3-act films aren't good. You know, the vast majority of films are good, have that structure as well. It's just clever. You know, it's interesting. We got to wrap it up, really. So, I mean, the one thing, the end of Act 3, I think, is a really good scene. You know, when they return the baby.
Yeah.
So, you know, we get real emotion in that scene, and that's
because the redemption, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that you know, for a film that, you know, it's about custody of a baby. It's a delicate subject, and it's been a madcap movie, but it is definitely steeped in emotion. You know, H.I. is barren, and H.I. sorry, Ed. It's emotive as well as being very, very, you know, you shouldn't be able to make a comedy out of that subject. Kidnapping children. It's probably not great, but it's a very funny movie. It's done really well. But and I think, like a lot of great comedies, it's because it's steeped in, you know, real emotion. And I think that redemption scene is really, really good. And you get Nathan Arizona when he says, "I'd hate to think of Florence leaving me. I do love her so," and that's the only real soft side of Nathan Arizona we see in the whole film.
Yeah.
And I think
that's the great point to end the story of the film, isn't it? That,
yeah.
This person that we've seen through, who has been, part of the narrative structure and part of the film, a solid, important part of the film, who has just been kind of a joke, and he's shown to, he's looking for the money all of the time, and it never, he's not dodging an opportunity for talking about his business.
Yeah.
In the plea for the return of his child.
He hasn't passed his realization that he could be selling some furniture while he's getting all this airtime.
Yeah. Or when delivering a reward or whatever. But yeah, in that point, that's what, there's the point. They've been given their redemption.
He's providing their redemption.
And in order for that to have value, he has to be, a better human than...
A human, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's achieved. It's really, it's really, really nice.
Because it's a masterpiece, and because the Coen Brothers are amazing at making films. So they just get this character and they're like, right, he's going to provide this ridiculous character. In the end, is going to be the one who provides our protagonists with their redemption. But how is he going to do it
with the whole entire film?
But how is he going to do it when he's a buffoon? Oh, well, what he's going to do is he's going to give it, and you're not going to really see the worth of it because he's a buffoon. And then he is going to say the single most touching line in the whole movie, the line that is the one where you realise his humanity. And so clever ending, really, really good. And then there's the dream sequence.
Yeah. To give us, to indicate that, okay, so this story has ended, but there is more of a story, and you are free as the watcher, as the listener, to decide for yourself whether that's true or not.
Yeah, because HI's dreams come true, or do they? Are they real? Are they not? Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. It seems a good place to sum it up, Crispin. So, have you got any sort of words that you'd like to say to sum up the film?
To sum up, I would say that for me, the whole thing is, like we've been discussing, it's all about character's journey and redemption. It's not just one person. But for me, it's about marriage, really. It's about the compromise of marriage, about the development of two very, very different people who go along a path and somehow meet in the middle and then continue that path as a one. And I think that's the kind of the midpoint in the film where Ed starts to steer towards high, and then for the end of Act 3, that's where they're going along as a one.
Yeah,
that's what the film's about for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, redemption is the overarching theme of the film, I think obviously there's a lot of things about birth, parenting. Everyone at some point becomes a parent. They're all fighting over who's going to be the parent of Nathan Jr., who's the only person in the whole film who doesn't cry. Every other character cries in the film, except Nathan Jr., which I think is really interesting. And everyone, like you say, everyone gets redemption. The brothers climb back in their tunnel and break back into prison, and it's a beautiful film. Somehow we didn't mention Glenn. I thought it was a great character.
Hold on, who's Glenn? His boss.
The foreman, yeah. Such a silly character.
Yeah. Shame not to mention Glenn.
No, and I had a good story about Polak jokes as well, but I'll tell you another time. Um, my story isn't a good Polak joke; it's the story about someone telling a Polak joke.
And that's a grand little end thing in the dream. We're just going to keep talking about it forever and ever unless we stop talking about it.
Yeah. So anyway, 2 thumbs up from me. Lovely movie.
Yeah, grand.
So, I really think we tore the tail out of that one.
We did.
Yeah.
Still lots left. I feel like
so much to talk about.
We talked about a third of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. However, maybe we'll just do that, just not record it.
Yeah, and then we'll probably talk about it on the website, and then when you want to join in the conversation and tell us what you think about the film, we'll probably be able to talk about the things which we were desperate to talk about. I'll tell my Polak story on the website as well. Not my Polak story, my story about someone telling a Polak joke. So you might be able to find that on facebook.com/These.Are.The.Films. Facebook.com/These.Are.The.Films, or tweet us at TATF Podcast, or you can email us at show@TheseAreTheFilms.com, and please visit our website at TheseAreTheFilms.com for clips and links. We do a page for each film we do, and we'll throw on a couple of clips and nice trivia, some links to nice resources and stuff, so do check that out. So, all that's left for us to do now is ask what film we're watching next time. So, Crispin, and now we have instigated a new rule where I have no idea what Crispin's chosen, instead of us pretending and just letting you behind the curtain there. So now this is going to be a total surprise to me. So the suspense is killing me.
I know just a way of delivering this surprise.
Okay.
The film we are going to watch next time is Big Trouble in Little China.
Wonderful. I haven't seen it in years.
Me either.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. Very recently, I sent you a GIF that was just people doing their hand sign to each other, and it circled round nicely in the GIF, so it was a continuous thing of people. And that got me really excited about that film. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Crispin, that is an excellent choice.
Good. I'm very glad you agree.
Fantastic. So if you've got any thoughts on that choice, please let us know at all the usual places.
That's it. So until next time, Froggy loved Daddy.
And Daddy loved Froggy.